Hey everybody, welcome to the Dog Owners Podcast. My name is Vinnie, that is Brent, and today's episode is going to be about things that we all do as dog owners that are not great for our dog's behavior, not great for our dog's mental health, but they're seen as social norms. So let's jump right in and get started.
And we're back with another episode of the Dog Owners Podcast. And as Vinny mentioned, this episode is going to be about the most common things that dog owners do with their dogs that they think are beneficial and they think are normal, but are actually probably messing up the dog's mental health, the dog's relationship with you. And so as dog trainers, we are going to help you guys understand not only the problems, but what you could be doing better to fix those problems. So I think the first area we got to get started is talking about exercise and talking about ways that we get our dogs enriched and tired. And we're going to talk about our first three. We'll talk about daycares, dog parks, and pack walks. All right. So Vinny, where do you think we should get started with daycares and dog parks?
Well, I think it sets the dog up for an unrealistic 8-hour day, right? So what most people end up doing with dog daycares, they go, I'm going to take my dog 2 days a week, and then their dog is chill for the next 3 days. They go, the dog's dead, doesn't do anything. They're perfect in the house. This is the best investment of all time. And then your athlete of a dog becomes addicted to the 8-hour days, and now it takes 3 days to get 2 days of being calm. And that catches up with them until eventually the dog is required to go to dog daycare for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week to be stimulated. And then people go, I can't get this dog to settle in my house during the daytime on the weekends. And this all happens because your dog has been conditioned to be awake and active and moving, because the traditional dog daycare, right, is, and this isn't a knock on people that own these or work at these, but from like Brent said, from a dog behavior lens, all we're doing is creating the one thing that we don't want to have happen, which is an overactive dog. We're going to have a dog who doesn't know how to settle down. We're going to have a dog who's getting bombarded by 5, 6, 14, 20 dogs at a time. A dog who's going to learn mistakes and bad habits from other dogs there. There's typically, Brent, one person for 20 dogs at these dog daycares.
Sometimes 30 or 40 or 50 in LA, man. It's crazy.
It's so unfair because your dog may be getting picked on or your dog may be the bully, right? But they're learning all of these things when you're not around, and it follows them home, right? Humping and jumping and peeing and marking and so much more and so much worse than that, but it all follows the dog back home. So I understand the concept is, hey, Vinny, I'm going to be gone for 9 hours. I need to do something with my dog. And I'll offer you 2 quick solutions. Number 1, wake up an hour earlier. Right? Like you can satisfy your dog's needs in the morning and in the evening when you come home from work. It is what we have always done as dog owners since the beginning of time, and it can still be done today. And if you're so worried about it, we can hire a dog walker to come in halfway for an hour. There are other options, and it's funny that I bring up the dog walker because we'll talk about that in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
But you have a lot of options, but the dog daycare setting for your dog's brain is not ideal. It keeps them on, it keeps them activated with no rest for way too long. And often when you look on the camera, there's dogs who are trying to sleep in the corner because they've had enough. But could you imagine trying to sleep while 20 children are running around screaming around you? That is not good sleep. That's not good for anybody's mental health. So I'm not a big fan of it. Brent, anything that I missed?
Well, when it comes to daycare, so I ran a daycare for 10 years, right? The facility that I worked at, we ran a daycare, and it was primarily a training facility. And everything that you talked about is what we really worked hard to try to prevent. But again, the framework of the daycare is ultimately this, is you take a super energetic dog and you put them in a group with a bunch of other super energetic dogs. They run around and they act crazy and they tussle. And if you're in a good daycare, you got people who are doing their best to try and regulate their energies and kind of like pair dogs or create groups that are going to be fitting for their temperaments and their personalities. Because as we've talked about in previous episodes, a dog can get overstimulated and make very poor decisions. A dog can be overtired and make really, really poor decisions. And then on top of that, doggy daycares actually tend to be kind of a crutch, right? And one of the things that I would see running a doggy daycare is dog owners relied on the doggy daycare Monday through Friday, so that their dogs were exercised or enriched in some way, but they had no clue that their dogs have a tendency, in the average daycare, they have no clue that dogs, their dopamine actually gets fucked up. Did you know that? Look at it this way. If every time my dog sees dogs, it's party time, the visual sight of a dog creates this emotional trigger in the dog's brain where when he sees a dog, he automatically gets revved up and he's ready to play and he's ready to run. Now, here's the funny thing. It makes sense at the daycare, but then you start seeing it bleed out on the street or somewhere in public, or you see your dog, there's a dog yapping at your dog from a fence and your dog wants to play with them, right? And so sometimes it has this negative response because it gets your dog extremely excited on site. Right. And so I always kind of made this comparison that a doggy daycare is kind of like an 18 and over club, right? Like when you're 18, like it's cool to go out to the club, but if you go clubbing every freaking night and party every freaking night and drink and dance and party till you drop, like that's taxing on the brain and taxing on the body. And so I agree with everything you said, Vinny. I don't think it's the best framework to install in a young dog's brain on how exercise and socialization should be, right? And I think daycares have actually kind of promoted this idea that, it's dog socialization. That is true. Playing is part of socialization, but we'll talk about more socialization later in this episode. But play isn't the only thing that socialization is about. Socialization should be kind of comprehensive, where it's about manners and it's about respect and it's about regulating yourself. And in essence, socialization should be about social skills. And daycares do not rehearse that many social skills other than like what I call like dog jitsu, where dogs like learn to play and run and fight and like hunt each other. And like, it's cool as long as it's safe. But yeah, I think what it does to the developing dog brain is kind of what I think like happens to kids when they're on the internet too much. You know what I mean? Their brain gets addicted to dopamine, and the smallest thing can trigger them to get overstimulated. And that's all I have to say about that.
You actually led into another thing by talking about on site. My dog gets excited on when they see a dog on our walk. One of the other things that were on our list at some point here is meeting every dog when you go on a walk will lead to that same exact behavior. So, not saying that it's bad for our dog to meet Teddy, who's the neighbor dog down the street, but if we end up meeting every dog that we see, or we play with Teddy every time we see him on site, this becomes an expectation from your dog's point of view, which will only lead to more pulling, more overexcitement and over arousal. And that's where a lot of the dogs that are frustrated will become reactive on a leash. You have this super happy dog, and daycare is a big culprit for this. You have a super happy dog who's really well mannered, but they suck on leash and they're great off leash. Right? It's because they're so used to seeing a dog and going, okay, it's my best friend. We have to play right now.
Mm-hmm.
And those two things lead into that a boatload, Brent.
Yeah. And I think what it also does, at least from a dog owner's perspective, this feeling of obligation, right? Like my dog sees his friend, he's super duper excited. And obviously as a dog owner, we want our dogs to make friends and be social and be happy, but at the expense of what? At the expense of my dog's attention span, at the expense of me being able to calm my dog down, right? Like there's a lot of trade-offs that happen. And I think a lot of owners, they fall into this obligation of like, well, my dog's happy to see that dog. I gotta let him pull me to go say hi to that other dog. And again, going back to how everything on this list at some point will affect your relationship with your dog. This is one way that it affects your relationship in a very, very bad way, right? And so a lot of our dog training is actually trying to teach you guys how to reverse this and how to like even ask your dog to ask for permission for 3 seconds before you let him go say hi to their buddy, right? Making sure your dog's not flailing on the end of the leash before you let him go say hi to their buddy, right? Because what you're trying to exercise when trying to socialize your dog is, as I said earlier, social skills. So social skills means patience and impulse control. Cooperation with your dog is part of socialization, and making sure that your dog is aware of these like social rules and norms that you hopefully have for your dog, right? And that's part of it. Another thing I want to talk about is we talk about daycares, and daycare is a way where you're outsourcing play with other dogs, right? And then there's a dog park, right? Dog parks has its own trade-offs. I used to take my dogs to dog parks, but at the end of the
Same.
day, I'm a professional dog handler, so I can read body language way faster than other people. I had enough control over my dogs where I could recall them and keep them safe. So I use dog parks a lot, and I would say, there's a lot of social media that says dog parks are bad, dog parks are bad. And I would say, yes, to the untrained person, taking a dog to a dog park where you can't read the body language of other dogs and you don't have any control over your dog, it's dangerous. It's extremely dangerous. And then there's a health issue too, right? Like, depending on the neighborhood you live in, or depending on what neighborhood the dog park is in, you will run the risk of disease. You will run you're not sure in what neighborhood everyone vaccinates their dogs. But typically, I like to believe in people. I like to think positively with people where I've had really good experiences at dog parks, but I've really seen some really bad things go on. And it's usually people who don't have control over their dog and they have a horrible read on their dog's behavior. But at least what I appreciate about a dog park is that if the owner does have control over their dog, or at least a decent read on situations, they can kind of coach and referee their own dog to be better, right? And they can safely utilize the public dog park for their dog's benefit, right? And yeah, what do you got to say about that?
So I've changed my tune on dog parks over the years because I read a lot of my comments. I read a lot of my Instagram DMs, and I was getting a lot of DMs about, hey, we live in a city where there's not much green space. The dog park offers us one chance to allow our dog to truly run safely. Our dog park is well maintained. There's clicks there who are really good about removing any bad eggs in the midst. Brent likes to see the positive in all situations, where I, on the other hand, don't trust anybody. So, like, when I go to the dog park, or if I were to take my dog to the dog park, I'm already thinking of like the worst case scenario from these people, because I just don't trust them, right? And but I have changed my mind on a sense of, if one, I have good control over my dog, as Brent said, and this is something that is so important. If I can read my dog's body language and I can read the body language of other dogs in the area, and I go at times where it's not overcrowded, I'm not putting my dog in a terrible situation, a dog park can be a great way to get the activity that your dog needs safely, right? We have a few dog parks in Pittsburgh that have no fences, and those are the best ones ever, because the only
Oh, that's
people taking
cool.
their dog there are ones who can control their dog,
Who trust their
right?
dogs. Yeah,
Y-
that's cool.
Yeah, yeah, it's great, and it's like right near a busy road. It's awesome. It's absolutely awesome. Um, but it does take a little thought to go, is this best for my dog at all times? Because even the best dog park can be infiltrated by people and dogs who just have no fucking idea. So always be aware, always be thinking, is this better for my dog? Is the risk worth the reward? And if you're in a safe dog park and it makes sense, great. But if you're going to one of these dog parks where people are bringing in Chick-fil-A, sitting down, smoking a cigar, not paying any attention to their dog, that's probably not best for my
Yeah.
dog.
Or
It's,
letting their 3-year-old walk around with all the
dude,
dogs. Like, my gosh,
yeah, dude,
like
come on.
that kid's gonna get bulldozed. Yeah,
Yes. So that
I
brings
agree.
us to pack walks, brother. And it's funny, as we were writing this list, I said, like, does LA have pack walks? And Brent goes, we fucking invented it, right? Like, this is where it started. And that's so true. Like, LA and New York make total sense because they can
Yeah.
get 15 dogs on a leash.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on pack walks, dude?
Yeah. Well, pack walks are I think they were a service that were created for volume, because here's the thing is, I think I do believe in pack drive, and I do believe that dogs are pack animals, but never in the wild do you see dogs walk single file right next to each other under some type of suppression or under some type of like regime, if that makes sense, right? So it's been kind of marketed to us as, oh, this is how dogs are. They need this. Like, dogs need packs. Like we need community in order to have good mental health and to be and all of that stuff. And I guess if I did need to argue for pack walkers, it's like they are providing exercise that owners cannot provide, right? Because they're working or they're busy. And obviously, walking one dog is hard, but walking 15 dogs on that same route is great for business, right? It's great for business. And there are very talented dog handlers, right? And
Yes.
I know a bunch of them, some of them that went to the dog psychology center out here in LA, and they're amazing dog handlers and pack walkers and trainers themselves. But I got to tell you this story that actually, this is why I still have love for pack walks, because not only is it impressive to see, but you can see certain communities, as you mentioned earlier, like New York and the big cities, like where it's super helpful. And this one time I was in Argentina. And when I was in Argentina, I was training a service dog, and I got flown out to Argentina, and I was there for like a week and a half. And I was walking around, and there's like a cafe on every corner in Buenos Aires, right? There's like the same way that there's Starbucks here, there's just cafes on every freaking corner. And two things I saw there. One, I saw a lot of purebred dogs in muzzles that were intact, just sitting at cafe patios, And then the second thing I saw is I saw the Argentinian dog walkers. And the Argentinian dog walkers, I don't know if you know that this is a thing, but they were Cesar Millan before Cesar Millan was a Cesar Millan, right? There are these dog walkers in the middle of Argentina, in Buenos Aires, where they will walk 15, 16 dogs on the sidewalk. They will take them to the park. They will tether them to like stakes that they put in the ground, right? Like metal stakes that they put in the ground. And all the dogs are under control. And then they will play fetch with one dog, put the dog on his tether. And then they'll play fetch with the other dog, put that dog on the tether, and they'll do some type of activity. But the pack walk is just a transport to enrichment, right? It's like taking this pack to the park. Then we're going to do some cool shit together, and then I'm going to take the dogs back to their apartments. And I was just mesmerized by this one guy that I saw. And I followed him to the park, and I'm just watching him, and I'm just seeing him play with these dogs, and he had full control. And I was like, this guy must be a dog trainer. Like, he must be a behavior specialist, this guy. So in my broken Spanish, I'm talking to the guy, and I go, man, this is really impressive. I'm a dog trainer from LA. Like, this is great, the service that you do. I said, you're a trainer? He goes, no, just a dog walker. He didn't have an accent like that. He was speaking to me in Spanish. He goes, yeah, I'm just a dog walker. And I said, really? And I was like, how do you get all of these dogs together? Now, here's the thing with these packs. These packs there were so many intact males that were under control, and they were calm. There were dogs of many sizes. It wasn't just like little dogs. It was like big dogs with some terriers. I would say the only thing they all had in common was that they all had like the same spirit, if that makes sense. Like, they were all, I guess you would say, balanced. But this was really, really cool. So I asked them some questions in my broken Spanish, and I said, so this is amazing. Like, how do you get them all to get along? And he was just saying like, well, yeah, I just pick the right dogs, and I only take on clients that fit my system, And then the second thing I asked him, I said, so what do you do if people want to touch your dog? And he looked at me funny. He goes, I don't let anyone touch my dogs when we're in pack mode, right? And he goes, even at the park? And he goes, no, I don't let anyone touch my dogs. And then I said something kind of stupid in retrospect. I said, well, what do you do if the dog doesn't like people? And he goes, well, I don't walk that dog, right? And now, because like if one, he goes, and he tells me, he goes, because if one dog lunges at people,
you got 15.
We got 15 dogs lunging at people. He's like, I can't take that dog because they're in the middle of the city, literally walking by crowds, right? And I said, so what does that owner do when they have this dog who wants to bite people? And they're like, he was like looking at me kind of funny. And he was kind of like not understanding my question. I said, what do they do with the dog like that? And then I reiterated the question. I said, well, what do you do if like someone comes over and the dog wants to bite that person? And then in Spanish, he said something along the lines of like, well, usually we don't keep dogs like that. And then the second thing he said was, and if you have a dog who doesn't like a specific person, you just put him away. You just put the dog away. Yeah. And so this dog handler who could be a millionaire in LA, just this humble pack walker in Buenos Aires who just loved what he did and did it well. But but there was so much wisdom in his systems that I don't think the traditional pack walker has.
Yes.
Not maybe not the traditional. I know a lot of friends that are like that. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know if that's the common general practice.
Well, I think you hit two nails in the head, okay? Because if you look at pack walk from a behavior standpoint, and the person that's walking the dogs understands even the basics of dog behavior, it can be a good thing. So, there's two huge companies in Pittsburgh. There's got to be like 100 in LA, right? One of the pack walk groups in Pittsburgh actually hires us to go there to train their staff, to look at certain things. And I love them. Like their dogs are under control. The dogs aren't like, one of my biggest fears of these pack walks is when the dog is feeling tense the whole time. Like you can see those leashes are grouped up super tight. There's always those two dogs in the back who hate their
Yeah.
fucking life on that walk. It's like, well, that's
Yeah.
not ideal for the dog. And that's actually not doing anything positive for the dog at all. Even though we got a 30-minute walk or an hour walk, it's not doing anything positive. And my other fear is where money comes into play of me taking a number of dogs because the number is important to me versus taking the right dogs that is important to me. So, if I was going to put my dog in a pack walk, okay, well, who's walking them? Like, let me watch how they do. And then what are the dogs like that my dog is going to be hanging around with? Because once again, the same thing that we talked about with daycare, your dog is going to learn from these other dogs. They're always training, right? Your dog is always training. And, the ones that are going out on harnesses that are, they got the what do they call that fucking dumb waistband around and
Oh yeah, yeah.
they're trudging around. It's like, that's not good for us. Like that's just not good for us. Where these pack walkers who come from a standpoint of behavior, who have good control of these dogs, the dogs are balanced, they're picking the right dogs, they're doing the right things, it can totally be good. It could also help a dog get out of their shell. There's no doubt about it. The one thing that we have to watch, which we've already talked about, Brent, is then this concept of every dog I see, I have to go be with, right? Like no matter what, guys, we have to teach that is not the response every time I see a dog. It can't be the response. But there are a lot of pros in pack walks. There are cons when we go to the wrong organization, and that is something you have to be aware of.
Yeah, definitely. And also like now in my career, I do admire really great pack walkers, as I mentioned. But one thing is there's also no replacing what, play and like higher levels of cardio can do for your dogs, right? Like out here, like Caesar Milan lives 10 minutes away from me. And like pack walkers who like go in the trails and they're like on inclines, like that to me is still very impressive because you got to be fit. You got to be so fit. And that I can see really giving the dog some good cardio and stuff like that. But yeah, there's no, I guess, I told you guys at the beginning of this episode, we'll give you guys alternates. But I really wish pack walkers were more like that guy in Argentina. I really wish there was a service of excellent dog handlers who, yes, could transport dogs in a pack, but they're taking them to a place where they can enrich them and throw the ball and get some of their isms out. And then as a unit, they all come back to their apartments and they all go back to their houses. Like that would be amazing. And I think some people kind of do that, but they do that with vans, now they'll put dogs in vans. So shout out to all the good pack walkers out there. But for you dog owners listening, now you know. Now you know questions to ask. Now you know things to pay attention to, so that you can kind of filter out the good ones from the bad ones. And if any of the bad ones are listening to us, you got to up your game. Up your
That's it.
game.
You
Up
know,
your game.
one thing I wanna mention based off these first two things that we went over, Brent, is often we are trying to pay people to build a relationship with our dog, and
Outsourcing exercise. Outsourcing. Yeah.
yeah, but those are, like, the best times to build the relationship with your dog, playing and going on like, migrating with your dog is beautiful. Like, it should be one of the coolest things that you do. Which actually, Brent, let's just go right into number 4 here, letting the
Yeah.
dog lead the walk.
Yeah.
This will naturally feed into that, but migrating and playing with your dog are 2 things that you should look forward to. And those are things where we can truly build a bond, and I understand some people are really busy, I totally get it, and I feel like at times it is way more beneficial that the dog does something versus nothing ever, but your dog isn't an ornament that we bought to sit on our couch at in our home. right? Like
Yeah.
we have to be doing these things in order to build the relationship, just like with your kid,
Yeah.
right? Like it has to be done.
Yeah. And
Um,
I will, if I can finish this section
yeah.
off before we go to 4, um, all of these exercises, right? Doggy daycare, dog park, pack walks. It's okay to use them every now and then. Make sure they're safe, ask the right questions. The issue becomes when it becomes a crutch and it becomes your sole, like if you're taking your dog to daycare 2, 3 times a week, but still hiking them on the weekends, good for you. That's amazing, right? If you have a pack walker that comes 2, 3 times a week, but you still take the time to build that relationship with your dog, great.
Bingo.
Right. Like that's something I want you guys to understand. Make sure that these people are practicing good practices. Make sure that you're asking the right questions. Now that you guys have the right perspective, you guys can do what's best for you and your dog and your schedule. Um, it's when you solely rely on these things to exercise your dog where it becomes a problem. Okay. All right. Number 4, letting the dog lead the walk. Yeah. Vinny, what are some of the reasons that people let their dogs lead the
Well,
walk?
number one is convenience, right? So it's like I don't know how else to walk my dog, so I just allow him to drag me to point A and B and C. This doesn't mean that I don't want my dog to be able to sniff and be able to, be a dog, right? Like that's not what I'm saying at all. But there should be two clear modes on walking, and we've gone over this before, but there should be mode one. I want my dog to follow me. I want my dog to understand I am in control and you have to pay attention no matter what is going on. The way I look at it is if I have my kid in Disneyland and we're in the middle of all these people moving around, I need the ability to hold my kid's hand and my kid walk right next to me. Same thing with my dog. I need that ability to do that. Okay. And then if I take my kid to a baseball field, I want my kid to be able to run around and be a psycho, right? And just be a kid, climb on trees and, do all the shit that kids should be doing instead of sitting on an iPad. Same thing with my dog. I want that ability to say, hey, you are not in control right now. And I am not following you where you want to go. And the biggest mistake that we make here is we go, well, I have to walk this mile. I've put in my brain that objective B that we're getting to is 1 mile out, and my dog is pulling me in that direction. So therefore, I must go to objective B. When you're teaching your dog to follow you on a leash, never have an objective to get to. Because some days you're going to have to throw that script completely out because I'm going to have to change the way that we're
Yeah.
going. Right. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of us do pendulum walks or figure eights or whatever the hell that you call them. But when we're doing heel training, there is no objective. There is time that I have set to teach my dog how to heel. I may make it a certain distance, I may not. But when the dog is constantly in the position to say, I want this, I'm going to just pull to get it, you are now just a chaperone to this animal. You are of no value at all. Where versus the dog looking at you going, what do you want me to do? How fast do you want me to go? Where do you want me to go next? That constant checking in is beautiful. And one, it builds a great relationship, right? It builds this dog who learns to follow you. Two, it is very difficult. It is difficult on the animal. It's difficult for the dog to go, okay, well, what do we do next? What's going on? And it's mentally taxing, right? So it's like that is the beautiful part about having a dog who follows you on a walk. And and then finally, with getting control comes the ability to give more freedom. That's where we can start to tell our dogs, hey, go do what you want. One of the things I wrote on this list is I do fear that people who watch too many dog training videos or listen to too many dog training podcasts, they forget to allow their dog to be a dog. So make sure you have the ability to do both. But with rules comes freedom, not the
Yeah.
other way around. Brent, what do you want to add to that?
Yeah. I think you said it was very passionate what you said.
Thank you, brother.
I love it. Um, I'm always kind of trying to dive into like, why do people let this happen? Right. If I can understand why dog owners do this stuff. So I've actually like surveyed my dog owners, right. Or my clients. And I've been like, why do you let this happen? And we'll see a couple things. Yes, there is a mentality that if my dog sniffs, my dog is supposed to be able to sniff. Yes, this is true, guys. Exploration is a form of enrichment. Your dog smelling things is good. But usually when they say this in the science literature, they talk about natural environments. They talk about novel environments, right? Not the same sidewalk that all the other dogs have peed on in the neighborhood that your dog walks every freaking day, right? Second thing is people feel that the walk is for the dog. So now we are giving the dog liberty to do as they please. The shitty part is leash laws say that you only got 6 feet. So how much freaking liberty are we giving our dogs with 6 feet? Now, maybe if you're on some rollerblades, cool, the dog feels like they have more liberty. So in order to give the dog true freedom and true enrichment where they can go sniff and do that stuff, we have to go to environments that allow our dogs to be 10 to 15 feet away from us, right? And even then, guys, even when we go on a walk and the walk is for the dog, quote unquote, we're still in charge, right? Like if I have a 15-foot leash, my dog has a 15-foot radius, but he's still not allowed to pull or go 16 feet away from me, right? So we have to set some type of structure or some type of expectation on the dog so that way they stay accountable to us. Because at the end of the day, if I don't have control over my dog, I can't keep them safe, right? And if I can't keep them safe, then I stop doing the thing that's beneficial for them. And then little by little, their life starts degrading, like their quality of life starts degrading, right? Third thing that people do, in the name of having to take a piss or take a shit, people will let their dogs drag them up and down the block, right? And this is why most good dog trainers will say, hey, let your dog poop and pee before the walk or at the end of the walk. So that way we can kind of, again, create a framework where the dog knows, here's my chance to go potty. I got one chance. Or I'll tell my clients, I said, your dog can poop 2 blocks down the street right next to that fire hydrant that he likes, but that's it, right? But ultimately, you need to decide where my dog can go potty and where my dog can't go potty. Because if the dog is constantly trying to choose, and in the name of letting our dogs relieve themselves, we give our dogs all this ability to drag us and pull us and sniff left and right. I've known clients that have waited 30, 40 minutes waiting for their dog to take a shit in the rain. You know what I mean? So like just teaching your dog potty training in a localized spot outside of your apartment building or in your yard, that is going to be the most efficient way of potty training your dog. So that way we don't run into this weird obstacle on the walks, right? So enrichment, liberty, potty training. And then the last one is people let their dogs lead the walk because, again, it's for the dog. So that means, as we said earlier, when your dog sees their friends, we confuse the walk, just basically like getting some cardio in and some steps in, with being a social experience. And here's the thing, guys. Your dogs can't really, like, how many friends have you made just walking down the street, right? Like, how many dog friends are you going to make in passing? And your dog might sniff and say hello, and there's a 50-50 chance that it goes well. But here's the issue. Like, let's say your dog meets a friend. They can't really do too much when they're on a leash. You know what I mean? So they can't do too much. So there's a lot of things that we try to jumble into what is supposed to be our walk. And I think this is what confuses people into not leading the walk and not putting rules on the dog. Because again, going back to guilt, right? We feel so guilty that our dog was trapped in the house all day that we want to do this complete polar opposite thing versus maintaining some structure in the house and then maintaining some structure in the walk. So that way it's not this big 180 that we pull on the dog.
Mastering the walk will be one of the best things for your relationship. You need to spend time on it every day. And remember, distance doesn't matter as much as time does. So if you go out and you say, okay, we're going to train for 40 minutes or we're going to walk for 40 minutes, but we've only made it a half mile, I'm okay with that. That does not have to be where our dog is doing 3-4 miles. We'll get more out of our dog in play than we will on this little walk anyways. So take the time to set this standard of like, hey, there are times where I am in control. You are following. That's it. And
I would argue that you're always in control. You just allow more freedom sometimes, and sometimes you take the freedom away.
That's a great point. And why are you in control? Because you said so. Just like my dad used to say, it's like,
because you're the mommy, because you're the daddy. That's why.
Because I fucking said so. And because I have an animal that is too dumb to make good decisions in high stress moments. So therefore I will make them for you.
Right. And our objective is to train them to make better decisions in high stress moments, right? That's the whole objective of training, right? let's move on to the next one that's also related to walking, but it's kind of the other side of walking, where what happens when our dog is really, really reactive. And every walk that we go on, my dog is lunging at 2 to 3 dogs. The common misconception is that we need to continue walking that dog.
Like one day they're just going to get it, dude. They're
Yep.
just going to snap out of it.
Yeah. And I really appreciate dog owners who they have a reactive dog and they'll wake their ass up at 5 a.m. to go for a walk with their dog. Like I really like, those are committed, diehard people. And again, this is not to say that if you have a reactive dog that your dog is doomed to never go on a walk yet. However, the walk is the bar and your dog's an alcoholic and your dog is looking for something to lunge at or react at. And so what we have to do is we have to find alternate ways of getting our dogs enrichment and exercise and through play and things like that. But yeah, what do you got to say about that?
So stop looking at the walk as a distance thing, like I just talked about, and start changing your dog's mindset of what it means to walk out the front door. So when people have a reactive dog, the second the door opens, is seeking other things to lunge at. Like that is their objective and that is their job. And what you can do to help that is turn your front yard, the outside of your apartment complex, wherever you live as a training center instead of a dog walking area. So, I want my dog to go outside to go, what am I going to do now? Like, what do you want from me? Versus this concept of like, okay, where is my next thing that I'm going to kill?
Who's my target?
Yeah. And it's easy. And a lot of my videos, I always talk about like bringing your dog bed outside. So everything that we've mastered in the home should then just be put into the front yard or to the front area where we go on our walk. And you can create a training center anywhere. I don't care if you live in New York City or if you live in the boonies. You can create a training center anywhere. And that's what I would start to do with a reactive dog is going, okay, I know my biggest pain point right now is when we pass dogs on the walk. And that all starts the second I open this front door, the dog is already looking for that. Well, change the dog's mindset, right? Eventually, this dog should walk out of the front door and go, hey, mom, or hey, dad, what are we doing now? Like, what is my task? And when you start to do that more with a reactive dog, you'll start to enjoy your time outside more. And your dog also will start to enjoy their time outside more. Like reactive dog owners dread going on a walk. They have a 360-degree neck where their neck is turning and looking all the time. It's like, that's not fun for anybody. And if you think your dog doesn't pick up on that, you are high, right? So it's like, okay, well, just start to do shit that my dog enjoys more outside. All dogs will enjoy training. Everybody likes winning. Everybody likes winning. So let's get this dog starting to look to win more outside versus looking to kill.
100%. All right, guys. So that kind of wraps up our whole exercise portion, like how we do enrichment, how we get our dogs tired. And that's the end of that section. So the next section we want to get into is we want to talk about how when we get dogs, people have a tendency, maybe because they don't know about dog genetics, but pretty much people will get certain dog breeds that were bred for specific things: herding, protection, aggression, fighting, biting, hunting. And then they will get mad at the dog for doing the thing that they were genetically bred for decades or centuries, right? How do you want to get started here?
My border collie nips when I run. Okay, well, here's what you're going to do. You're going to get a fucking cavapoo. I say that in jest, but something that you have to remember is like your dog was bred for a purpose. You are not allowed to, lose all of your shit on your dog because they're doing the one thing that they're good at, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like my German Shepherd barks when he hears shit at night. Okay, great. First instinct should be, okay, that's what he does. Second instinct is, okay, now I have to do something about it. But you cannot pop off because your dog is showing their dog.
Yeah.
Right. Like, oh, my beagle barks. Okay. Well, fuck it, eh? You know what I mean? It's like, I think a part of us, we just have to take a step back and go, well, our dogs were bred for things. Okay. And not saying that we can't control it, not saying that we can't train our dogs, but you have to get rid of the anger at our dogs showing
the
resentment.
Yeah,
that's a better word for it. Resentment.
Yeah, don't have resentment. You pick the dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Now I can
First,
understand. Sorry to cut you off. I can
no,
understand those of you guys who get rescue dogs, and you don't know what breed that dog is. Maybe it's a mix of this, a mix of that.
it's a
Maybe
lab
you,
mix.
it's a lab mix. It's a pit bull mix. You know that. But you guys maybe don't know what the mix is, right? And so if you find anyone who knows dogs, then we have to talk about like genetic packages, right? Like, are you skinny and slender and run really fast? You're probably a hunting dog. Are you muscular? Because you probably are like a bite fighting type of dog. Are you like medium build and like very keen and smart? Well, you might be like a shepherd mix, or you might have something in there. Are you small and yappy? You might have some terrier in you. You know what I mean? So when you guys understand these genetic
Or my wife.
packages, or you're, oh God. So when you get a rescue dog, we may not know all the breeds, but we can at least understand the genetic packages. And here's the cool part. Any good dog trainer should be able to identify that genetic package and give you training that's going to bring the best out of that dog. And sometimes bringing the best out of that dog is teaching the dog how to control the things that annoy the shit out of you. And
Yes.
teaching, and not control as a suppressing kind of way, but teaching like my barking dog, okay, ding dong, good. I want you to bark. Now I'm going to teach you quiet, right? And allowing the dog to bark versus being resentful at the fact that your dog barks when your guests come over. That's a gift that someone, a dog wants to protect you, and protect the house. But it's not a gift if that dog takes it overboard and thinks he has to like bite the person and make him run far, far away.
But like you mentioned, Brent, sometimes we try to take all of the genetics and put it into a tight bubble, and I want to throw that in a small box that I never open again. But you have to lean into their genetics. Like it is important to allow the dog to do those in areas where it's okay. So don't always try to stray away. It's like, no, give this dog a chance to fight, or give this dog a chance to hunt, or give this dog a chance to herd. Those
or
are
run
all
fast,
very important. Yes, it's like, so don't always get frustrated with it. Give it an outlet, and then learn how to control it in other areas. But the first part is mindset.
Mm-hmm.
If you can go, oh, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That will do a lot for your relationship with your dog, because you will stop, as Brent said, resenting, or you'll stop just feeling this ball of frustration inside of you. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
that's really all I have to say.
yeah, and as Vinny was alluding to, is like you got to train the dog in front of you and not wish they were another dog, right? Like you might like the looks. Well, with that looks comes a specific attitude, right? Or a specific perspective on life, right? And so um, understanding the genetics is going to be information, and you will approach your training with a lot more empathy and compassion and care if you realize, oh, that's what he's bred to do. All right, cool. All right, and dealing with that.
Yeah, you know what? And just a quick insight, personally, I had my first dog was a Newfoundland, then I had an English Mastiff, then I went to a Black and Tan Coonhound. Okay, and if anybody is a hound owner, you'll probably have one in your life and you're done, right? Like you're done.
Just one.
uh, um, but even for me, I kept putting that hound in the box of my other two dogs early on, and that was like the worst thing I could do. Is like, why is this dog fucking making noise? Like, why is he whimpering? Like,
Mm-hmm.
well, why is this dog "Ah!" Like, why is he doing that? It's, well, it's 'cause what he's supposed to do,
Yeah.
and then when you change your entire perspective, and then you change the training program and the lifestyle program for that specific dog, man, shit gets a lot easier, like
Mm-hmm.
way fucking easier.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gone through it all. So it was like Mastiff, Black and Tan Coonhound, Pit Bull Border Collie, back to Mastiff. And maybe you're going to find out a lot about yourself of like, there is a certain type of dog that is best for you and your lifestyle, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
like a big fat lazy mastiff. That's a great
Mm-hmm.
dog for my lifestyle. So just keep that in mind when we are even picking our next dog, and then
Yeah.
keep that in mind for our training for our current dog.
Yeah. 100%. All right. So if we're not looking at their genetics and we're not taking into account the nature of things, then typically what we're doing is the opposite, which is our next subject, which is we might be giving the dog human characteristics or human character traits that isn't going to help us raise them. The next one is we talk about is humanizing our dogs or adding human characteristics, anthropomorphizing. What is it? Anthropomorphizing is
There
the
you go,
proper
brother.
word.
Get it
There
out
you
of you.
go. And this is just where we put human thoughts and human characteristics. And don't get me wrong, guys, there's a huge parallel between how dogs feel and how all mammals feel, right? But feelings, wanting comfort over displeasure and like moving away from displeasure in order to get comfort, like these are really normal animalistic traits. I would say we are more like dogs than dogs are like humans, right? And it's not the other way around. Like dogs live with us and they've adapted to live with us for thousands and thousands of years. But, there's huge differences. And I think it's important for us to not humanize them. And don't get me wrong, I talk to my dog. Like I'll talk to him as if he knows what I'm saying, but he behaves. Right. And so what we're going to talk about is like how it affects your relationship. So Vinny, what are some ways that humanizing a dog kind of affects people's relationship in a negative way with their dogs?
Yeah, I think that asterisk is important. I don't want people to not talk to their dog and tell them sweet sorrows when it's that time, right? Let's just like ice cream. It's totally fine to have ice cream, but if that's every meal, if that's everything that we're doing with our dog, that's when it kind of bites you in the ass. The first and easiest one is the guilt. We've talked about this before. Of like, I tell my dog to stop doing something, and they're pouty, and then immediately I said, "Baby, it's okay, it's okay. I love you. I shouldn't have done that." It's like, dude, stop it. Right? Like, it's your dog. If you're if you set a boundary, don't feel like you have to now sing them a 16-page poem to make them feel better.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's okay that your dog is upset they didn't get something. Every time it always comes back to, "But I don't want him to dislike me." And as we talked about in the last podcast, you gotta throw that mentality out because this is not a relationship where the dog always has to feel good.
Yeah, what's funny is when we were hanging out with Tyler Muto, who's another excellent dog trainer, he said something that stuck with me. And it wasn't the first time I heard it, but he really made it stick. Because I asked him, I said, is being a dad, was being a dog trainer before you were being a dad helpful? He goes, oh, 100%. It was so helpful, being a dog trainer before I was being a dad. And he said, actually, dogs are really much like kids. He goes, the problem is there's nothing wrong with treating your dog like a child, but there's something wrong with treating your dog like an infant. He distinguished these two things. He goes, a child, you put rules on them, you expect things from them, you raise them to have manners. But an infant who's like this little mush ball, you just nurture them and clean up their poopies and feed them their bottles and hold them and rock them, right? Because they can't take care of themselves and they can't be culpable or accountable to things, right? And I think that's a huge distinction. I think when me and Vinny are talking about humanizing, I think we really mean like your dog's not a baby. But I would say like he treat him like a child, fine, but a child you're raising to be accountable adult. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, no, that was great. That's actually one of the best ways to look at it of all time.
another thing with humanizing that happens is we talk a lot, right, Vinny? Like you, I love the name of your company because it's you say it once, right? Say it once, dog training. And why do you suppose people talk a lot to their dogs?
Because we believe that we can convince them to do something through English, right? So it's
Yeah, that's great.
um, but we do get in that habit, and a lot of us spend a lot of time with our dog, and we don't spend time with many other beings. So the dog just hears all of my pros and my cons of my day and all of this. And when it comes time for my dog to do something, me pleading to the dog, like Caesar has this great thing. He's like, first I'm gonna talk to the dog nice, right? And then I'm gonna yell at the dog. And then I'm gonna talk to God as if God is gonna transport down and then get this dog to do something, right? It's like the first time he said it, I died, right? But no, but on a serious note, talking, you're never gonna be able to say enough English words to get this dog to do something, right? So throw out all of your vocabulary and just make the dog do it. Right? Because your dog is not going to pick up on the story that you're telling them to get them to do something. What do you want to add to that?
Yeah, again, going back to why people talk to their dogs, I think 100% what you said is because we think we can reason with them or motivate them through English. And one thing that just point blank, we got to say, dogs have to learn English as a second language. So if you're talking to your puppy in baby voice or full sentences in English, most likely the dog doesn't really register what you're saying. However, I will say this. Humans, because we use language a lot to emote, like we feel emotions and feelings through the words that we say, right? Like I love you so much, baby dog. Oh, you're the best, you right? Because that language puts us in that frame of mind where we can emote that feeling, right? Someone goes, "You fucking punk ass bitch," right? Like they're just screaming at their dog, "You fucking asshole," right? Because it puts them in that state of mind. So the words that we use in the emotion, the emoting is kind of correlated. So I can understand like talking to your dog because you're feeling something. But when it comes to like general communication and like trying to get our dogs to learn words and commands and gestures and things like that, too much talking, like they don't know what we're saying, right? So when it comes from a training standpoint, or we're trying to teach our dog tasks, or we're trying to teach them like markers, like this is good, this is bad, the more succinct your language can be, the better. And that language needs to be tied directly to some type of action or outcome, right? But when you want your dog to feel how much you love them, fucking read them a fucking poem. Like, I don't care, you know?
That's the
If you're, yeah, if your dog is sick, hold them and just kiss them and love on them. If your dog's being a freaking idiot, let them know, "Oh, you're a freaking idiot. I'm so mad at you." Right? You know what I mean? Like it's okay to talk because that expresses feeling. And it's so funny. Some of my clients who come from foreign countries, I'll have to talk to them because they have broken English, so they'll be like, "No, don't do that. No, don't do that," with their dog, but the emotion isn't there. So I was like, "What would you say in your native tongue?" And they would go, "Basta." Basta. And I was like, that sounds way better. That's gonna be your marker for stop, like knock it off, right? And when they can speak in their native tongue, they can actually emote the emotion better and it comes off more natural. So yes, I think there is room for talking to our dogs, usually when it has to do with emotion. But when it comes to learning skills and shit, keep it simple.
I
Cool.
like it. Yeah, the energy's got to match what you're trying to get across.
All right, guys, we are towards the tail end of this episode. And the last couple things we're going to talk about is raising a young dog, right? Some of the common mistakes when raising a young dog. And this is actually a really good one. I think, didn't we talk about this in another episode?
We have, but it's that important that I do want to bring it up again. The concept of waiting to take dogs out until they have all of their vaccinations is so common and terrible advice that will ruin your dog's mental health. Now, I'm not telling you to take your dog to the dog park and to interact with dogs that you don't know. But if you're waiting till 16 weeks to bring your dog out, you are ruining the best chance to socialize your dog. And I'm not saying socialize in terms of dog park. I'm saying socialize in terms of Earth.
Yeah,
That
the
there are,
world.
that there are train stations, that there are cafes, that there are people that are white, black, tall, small, kids. Your dog needs to see all of that before they are 16 weeks. They need to see all of that, and that's very important. And the advice of waiting until they have their last vaccination shot is detrimental to behavior. And we see it from a dog trainer perspective and a dog behavior perspective of it's going to ruin the dog's next 15 years or however long they live. And I know the veterinarians see it from, hey, I have seen parvo. I have seen dogs go through this. Yeah, I get it. But there has to be a middle ground where I can be an adult and make good decisions for this dog and still socialize them and not risk them getting lepto, parvo, the whole 9 yards.
Influence, yeah. And I think there is a balance between making sure we're cognizant of where we take our dogs, the surfaces we put our dogs on. However, your dog needs to be exposed. Like your dog cannot only grow up in the sterile environment of your house where it's calm and quiet all the time. Now, if you live in a busy house with lots of people coming in and, you take the dog to the office and they get to meet a bunch of strangers and they also get to sleep in the crate when they're tired and, and they get a lot of exposure and they get to ride in the car and they get to do all those different things. You might live a lifestyle where your dog naturally is starting to understand, okay, I see the world. I'm not too scared. The most important reason, like people say the word socialization when it comes to puppies, and really what it is, it's about brain development. Right. It is about resilience. It's about sensory, overload, right? Like I don't want my dog's first experience with a garbage truck to be when he's 4 months. And it's not even like he has to be next to the garbage truck. I'm talking like down the street. He sees a garbage truck for the first time, right? So it's more about teaching the dog's brain to deal with stimulus and deal with new people and new sights and sounds and smells and things like that. And you can do that, like I used to hate this, but yeah, sure. In LA, so many times you'll see people with puppies in a baby stroller. No, in a baby stroller. Like they have a baby strollers now,
Yeah,
right?
it's better
Um,
than nothing.
it's better than nothing. Take the dog out. If you want to carry the dog, take them into Target. The cool thing is when you have a puppy, you just stand there and people will come to you. They'll just come to you. So yeah, I agree with Vinny. Waiting till the dog is 4 months old to expose them to any stimulus is very detrimental to the dog's behavior. And so use your best judgment. Don't take them to dirty places. Definitely don't take them to dog parks where there's highly saturated populations of dogs. But if you have a family dog that's healthy, vaccinated, if you have
Friend, neighbor.
friends' dogs, neighbors' dogs that are friendly and vaccinated, then you're able to enrich your dog's life a lot sooner than is veterinarily recommended, right? So be smart about it. Obviously, we understand that the worst case, vets see the worst case scenario all the time. So I totally get they have protocols for the worst case scenario.
So do we.
Yeah, exactly.
We see it from a mental standpoint.
Yeah, we see it also. Next thing when it comes to young dogs or puppy development is this idea that, oh, we don't have to work on that right now. That's something that my dog's going to grow out of over time, right? What are some of these behaviors, Vinny, that people think dogs they're just going to grow out of it?
Yeah, all of them, and instead of growing
All
out
the
of it,
behaviors.
yeah, but honest to God, they're not gonna grow out of it, they're gonna become a master of it,
Yeah.
and that's something that we have to, like, Vinny, my dog is, my dog's just biting me, he's just a pup. Like, this play biting is gonna go away when his teeth fall out and his teeth come in, and you're like, "No, it's not." Like, the dog is actually gonna become a master, at never being able to not mouth human beings, and that to me is obnoxious. Like, or my dog's gonna grow out of jumping on a counter because, once he's older, he's gonna learn how to listen to that, or he's gonna grow out of jumping up on me and biting my drawstrings on my pants. No, all of these things they're gonna just get better at. They're gonna get
Mm-hmm.
way better at. So you always have to get that mindset out of, like, immediately, this is not the dog that I want
Yeah. Yeah.
when he's an adult, when he's 60 pounds, so I probably shouldn't allow him to rehearse it when he's 14 pounds. I would say that there are a few caveats to this, but they're very minor and they're very few and far between. Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is when I have a young dog in a house, like, and I've mentioned this in videos before, and I keep that dog on a leash and he puts the leash in his mouth. For a 10-week-old dog, I'm not gonna lose my shit over that, right? I don't think it's necessary, but he still will not grow out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep that in mind. Or if I take a young dog out and he puts a leash in his mouth while he's walking around and looking at the earth, okay, it's not the end of the world at this particular stage, but still, once again, this dog is not going to grow out of it. And if I
Mm-hmm.
never address it, he's only going to get better at doing it.
Yeah.
What do you want to add to that?
Well, my brain kind of went to this, guys. The dog shelter is filled with a lot of dogs who didn't grow out of it. And here's
That's
kind of like a real basic rescue story. Okay. A family got a puppy and they thought it would be a great idea. And they brought the puppy inside the house because it's modern day. And that puppy started pissing and shitting everywhere. That puppy started biting the rugs and chewing on the carpet and attacking the little kids because they're running around and he just thinks that they're puppies. So then what happens in that family if they're uneducated? They don't call a trainer. What they do is they stick the dog in the garage or they put the dog in the backyard. Well, guess what your dog learns to do outside? Well, now he's pissing and shitting outside, so that's good. Then he starts chewing on your furniture. Then he starts ripping up and digging holes in your yard. And now you're getting pissed at him. But then by 8 to 9 months, your dog starts hitting puberty. And now your dog starts fence fighting with the dog next door and starts chewing on your gate. And maybe his hormones are kicking in. And now he tries to escape from your yard, right? There's a high percentage of dogs in shelters and rescues, guys, that were quote unquote strays, but
yes.
they're all under a year old. That's crazy. But then there's also dogs who live inside yards that have unresolved puppy issues because no one took the time to teach them. And these dogs did not grow out of it. Okay. So the shelter is filled with a bunch of dogs who didn't grow out of it. So that's proof right there. And so usually when me and Vinny train rescue dogs, really what we're trying to do is run them through similar protocols that they should have learned when they were under 6 months of age. And a lot of rescue dogs, as Vinny said, they got better at certain behaviors. So if they got better at biting, well, now that dog's deemed aggressive. If they got better at yapping and barking their head off, if their confidence was never built up, then now they're just lunging at things that they're scared at instead of running away. So I got really passionate about that. Wow.
You got deep, bro.
Yeah.
But you are correct.
Mm-hmm.
You are absolutely correct. And the demanding behaviors that start young, God, they get so much better at that. Like there's no doubt. And uh, the puppy cycle that we went over is not a puppy cycle. This is a dog cycle. This is
Mm-hmm.
this does not have to be for dogs under 6 months. And a lot of those times where you get a rescue dog that's 4 years old, but mentally it acts as if it is a year old or a year and a half old.
Mm-hmm.
Putting them in that puppy cycle will help you, or that dog cycle will help you, because it offers time for you to go, this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing, this is
Yeah.
what we're doing. So
Yeah.
the dog cannot rehearse the problem behavior as much.
Yeah.
And you're also prepared to deal with it because you know this is what we're doing at this specific moment.
Yeah. Yeah. The puppy cycle is beautiful because it creates the perfect management systems while it gives you enough time to build your relationship and train skills into your dog because no one ever did before.
Bingo.
Right. Right. Now, I know I was guilty of this like my family was guilty of this next one when I was a kid, free feeding our dogs. And so that means taking a bowl of food and just keeping it filled up all day long and leaving it there for your dogs. What do you got to say about that, Mr. Vinny?
I think there's so many problems that come with free feeding, and it makes sense. People will buy the dispenser, they put the food in there, they just let it constantly overflow because it's one less task that I have to do. It's just like the dog door, which we did not put on here, but it's just like the dog door because now I don't have to do something for my dog. But here's three things that end up happening. Number one is food now doesn't mean anything to your dog because they have access to it all the time. So when we try to go train our dog, the value system's fucked up because I have access to it. I don't need to do your shit for you now because it's there all the time. It's like a billionaire. If I offer a billionaire $100, no, I don't really care.
Yeah.
Because I am too wealthy, right? And
Yep.
and same thing with your dog at that moment. Number two, I don't know if you've noticed a correlation between dogs that are free fed and dogs at resource guard, but it is very well documented, and we talk about it all the time as a team, that these dogs that have access to, I don't need to really do anything for this, therefore I own this. And not necessarily saying that they will resource guard their free fed food because that doesn't end up happening, but they resource guard all other items because it is mine. I have access to it. I don't have to do anything for it. It is just known that it is mine. That's not great for a dog's mentality. It's so funny when I say in videos, like, your dog should work for things. What? It's my dog. No,
He's
no,
my
no.
baby.
Yeah, it's like, no, no, no.
It's exactly what we talked about earlier, where it's like you're not raising an infant, right? Like you shouldn't make a 2-year-old work for food, right? Because he's 2. You shouldn't make a baby work for their food. But when I was a kid, it was like, go set the table so we can have dinner. It was, all right, go wash your hands so we can have dinner. It was, do this thing in exchange for something I'm already going to do for you, by the way. Like my mom, it was going to feed me. But there was always some type of exchange of energy, right? Like it wasn't like for free, like this idea of no free lunch. Like that's a concept in behavior of just getting the individual to feel that they can earn and achieve the thing by exchanging some type of energy. Right. And I think that's the important part with dog food.
Yeah, and it should be the same throughout. So if you, going back to the kid analogy, if you clean your room, do your homework, you can go on your iPad. Right. But that is gone, by the way. Like, that is totally gone. And I will not even go down that road of like, man, I cannot wait to be a father because I cannot wait to have the greatest, most confident, most well-behaved, most courteous child on the planet. Right, like, this kid was gonna open every door, he will say yes and
Yeah,
please,
yeah.
he is so
Yeah,
dainty,
yeah.
he will but, you know, kids do or should not have access to everything that is great until they do something. It's not just I get an iPad, I just get a bully stick just because. Or like it is good to make dogs work for these things, and it also puts you in a position that great things flow through you instead of
Yeah.
I just have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, free feeding is no bueno. And then the obvious negatives of you'll have a fat dog, like that's not great, or like that's not good for anybody. What else do you want to talk about with free feeding?
Well, I'll tell you what. I never free fed my dogs, and it's because my grandma taught me this when I was young. And she said, dogs are very strong and they will hide anytime that they are sick, anytime that they're in pain. And my dog's appetite is the number one litmus test to know if my dog feels good or not. So if I'm free feeding my dog, I might miss a day or two that my dog isn't feeling too good because I wasn't paying attention. And so, like, the way I knew my dog had cancer, my dog Toby, that boy would scarf his food down in 10 seconds. And this one day he just left it there. And I was like, what? And he's 12 years old, and that was weird. And I'm sure you can relate to that, man. I know you had a loss
Yeah.
recently. But that's one reason that, like, it is a ceremony. It's like, you ready for your food, big boys? You know, you can go to your crate, you can go to your spot, you can do this thing. And as soon as I see a dog not motivated for their food, I'm like, something's wrong with you. Right. So that's why I like to do it.
Dude, the I say this all the time, but the beautiful thing about listening to other people is you get to see it through their lens. And I would have never and as true as that is, I would have never said that because I would have never thought to say that. And you are totally right. And everybody knows that. Like if your dog doesn't
Mm-hmm.
eat, something's up. You got a fucking
Yeah.
stomach ache. Did you fucking eat something you shouldn't have? Or
Mm-hmm.
something severely wrong? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody who's owned a dog has known who's to go to feed a dog and their dog doesn't eat. They go, oh, immediately that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Man, that's brilliant.
Yeah. So it's a good test.
Your
It's a good
grandma was
litmus test.
smart as hell.
Grandma's an OG. She's an OG. All right. Last but not least, you ready for this
Definitely
one?
not least.
Yeah,
Definitely not.
definitely
Most
not least.
overlooked thing in dog training and raising a dog.
Yep. The last thing that we're going to talk about, this is a pretty long episode, but I like it. I think we covered some cool ground. It's not crating or denning your dogs when you're home. Okay, so this is a concept. My friend Melanie Ude, who's a behavioral neuroscientist, she breaks it down as structured separation, right? Very simply, structured separation is exactly what our parents did to us when they told us to go play outside, or they told us to go play with our toys, or they told us to go, where they kind of made a requirement like you can go do stuff on your own now to help build your character and develop hobbies and develop habits. And children that don't have structured separation tend to be a little bit more codependent and have a little bit more separation anxiety. And these are some of my friends who, I remember in high school, like they couldn't eat by themselves. They couldn't go to the mall without someone coming with them, and I guess if you're a teenager, that's weird. but you get my point. So the last thing we're going to talk about is people who do not crate or den their dogs when they're home. What do you got to say about this?
So well, you hit on two separate points. Point number one is your dog should be crated while you're home. The crate should not be associated with me leaving because then the crate is now a bad thing. Right,
Totally.
like immediately a bad thing. If you're only using a crate for one thing, like people who have an aggressive dog only put their dog in the crate when somebody comes over. So now me going to the crate starts to piss me off. That or starts to give me this feeling of anxiety. That should never happen. Just because you're home now and there are more people home with their dogs more frequently doesn't mean your dog should have access to be out all the time. If you think of it like a toddler, it's like they need to sleep. They need to sleep for their well-being. Same thing is true for your dog. The second thing that you talked about is your dog learning how to make decisions while not being with you is also important. Like you putting your dog outside or in a gated room, giving them a bone and saying, "Hey, just go do your own thing." That is also very important. Separated on a why, right? Like these are two separate things, but both equally important. working from home now has ruined dogs, has created a huge business for dog trainers because behaviors are blowing up because dogs don't sleep enough and dogs don't know how to behave without their human being. So those are two things that we should be adding into our daily life is like, yeah, you're going to be created even though I'm home all day. And also you're going to learn how to be independent without being in the crate and without being next to me. So the way I look at it is just 3 stages is 1 with me, 2 awake but not with me, and then 3 totally isolated.
No, I love that. I love that a lot. You guys want to know what's funny is people don't know how to put their dogs away because they can't. So there's this I get behavior cases all the time. They come to me and I'll ask people, like, their dog is lunging at people at the front door. And I will say, well, why don't you just put the dog away when that person comes over? And they go, I can't. And I was like, what do you mean you can't? And they're like, he would hate it. Okay. Now, mind you, they are in my office wanting me to fix their dog and pay me over $7,000. But they're scared of putting their dog away because the dog's not gonna, you know what I mean? And this is actually more of like kind of, it's where you hate the problem and you hate the solution at the same time. So I tell people, I said, I can fix your problem in 2 weeks by just teaching you how to den train your dog and teach your dog to be comfortable being put away. Right? So you don't have to spend a cajillion dollars with me. You just put your dog away when guests come over and he can come out when they leave. And that's it. How does that sound? They go, oh, well, I don't want him to be locked up. And then now the real reason of why it's not a good idea. I want them to make friends. I said, but right now your dog can't make friends. Your dog wants to eat your friends. So here's what we got to do. For now, we got to develop this. So we can buy ourselves enough time so we can train the other thing. And so there is a lot of like emotional blocks and a lot of reasons why people don't separate their dogs. And they should separate their dogs. But this is always what I look at. It's the utility of being able to put your dog away when the pool guy comes, when the gardener comes, when that friend, with the new boyfriend comes over, the dog who, it's Thanksgiving dinner or someone's birthday party and there's food everywhere. And I don't want my dog like running around like a shark stealing food. Having the utility of being able to put your dog upstairs or put your dog in the bedroom, training that as just, every day I'm going to put you in there, take a nap, even if it's just once a day. Making it a regular thing is so important for dog owners, right? We didn't have this issue 30 years ago because dogs lived outside, but now dogs live inside. So we have to create a different space where our dogs can relax and not be having to deal with humans.
One even note to add to that is too many people are multitasking. Their job is suffering, their relationship is suffering simply because we don't do that. Brent, I had a client. I see them again tomorrow. Oh no, Thursday.
Hope they listen to the episode.
Yeah, they're great people, right? They have this dog who's attacking the husband in the house, and so I said,
Attacking
I'm
the
asking
husband.
them about their day, and I'm like, "What do you do at night?" And the wife goes, "Well, I sleep on that couch with the dogs because, they can't be near the husband." And I go, and I looked at the husband, and his face is sad. I go, starting tonight, the dog goes in the crate. You sleep with your husband. Like, this is fucking outrageous. And he was so happy. And she's like, well, what about the dogs? I go, what about your husband? You know what I mean? Like, the guy married you. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
how about you cuddle with him instead of cuddling with his dog? But needless to say, we have to get over that mental hurdle of it is not a big deal to, I like that, den a dog.
Dog, yeah.
And it has to be done as a ritual. It has to be done not once a week, but every day. Also, you're going to lose your fucking job if you're constantly having to deal with your dog instead of
well, and even in those situations, guys, like I'm talking like legit dogs who are trying to eat people at the front door. People have a hard time putting that dog away because of how the dog's going to feel. So now you're in this like cognitive dissonance where you're just like, I hate the problem and I hate the solution equally, but I'm stuck. And worst case scenario, you mentioned you could lose your job. You could lose your dog. Like legit, your dog bites enough people, the city's going to come and do something. Again, we're talking about the extremes because that's when people usually call me and Vinny is when they're attacking the husbands, right? Like stuff like this. But just to keep it real with our listeners is develop this skill because you never know when you're going to need it. And develop this skill because it's healthy for your dog's brain. Develop this skill so your dog has other hobbies and habits that do not involve you. So that way your dog learns to be independent and strong and resilient. And I think that's the bottom line of learning how to crate or den your dog when you're home.
I love it. This is a great episode, and I hope everybody listening can take something away from it. And remember, as always, I mentioned earlier in this episode, I changed my viewpoint on dog parks because I had multiple people reach out to me. I also would love to take that same mindset into the podcast. So if there's anything that you guys are like, hey man, you didn't talk about this, and this is something that's important to me, or I'd like to learn more about this, or I'm struggling with this, please reach out. Send us a DM. Hey, dude, I want to learn about this. Talk about this. Why haven't you yet? So we were open to all questions, critiques, the whole 9 yards. And I really appreciate you guys being here. And we will see you at the next episode.